Imagine being just a regular high school student who has a thing for older women, you know, the kind that wear dentures. Okay, not exactly like that, but more like the ones who teach you everything. It all starts in the bathroom, a place for meditation and connecting with nature. Our protagonist, Ichiro Sato, like any normal guy, went to make a deposit but found his teacher, Kana, occupying the stall. "Close it, dude. I'm dropping a deuce." Kana is extremely strict and tough, even scolding parents at meetings and feared by troublemakers. "Close it, dude. I'm dropping a deuce." The teacher has a way of being someone extremely strict and tough. So much so that she is even capable of scolding the parents in meetings, and even the thugs are afraid of her. The situation would be pretty easy to resolve if either of them could just get out of there, but the bathroom door got stuck and now they find themselves trapped. It's at that moment that some students walk in and the teacher grabs the kid, asking him to be quiet because if they get caught, things could really get bad for both of them. That's how the situation escalates even more when Kana finally manages to empty the tank, and Ichiro does too, bringing this peculiar situation to a close. After this, a few days would pass, and we can see that Ichiro hasn't been able to forget that feminine effect from the bathroom incident. He's feeling so lost and strange that he decides to take an hour off in the nurse's office, and his odd behavior is noticed by his friends Rin and Mayu-sensei. So once in the nurse's office, luck would smile on him once again, because there would be Kanita, who was resting due to a bad cold that was making her feel really hot. And since Aichiro is a good guy, he won't let the teacher keep feeling bad, so he starts looking for something among the medicines to help bring down her fever. However, the only thing he finds is some suppositories. You know, the kind that go up the rear. With no other option, he sends it through the teacher's back door. On the second try, he succeeds. Mayu enters the nurse's office to peek. Ichiro hides, and the teacher thanks him, asking him to leave before catching her cold. But the second attempt was successful. And just then, Mei entered the infirmary, only stopping by for a quick turn under the covers. Ichiro was hiding there. The teacher thanks him for what he did and asks him to leave before he gets infected. Unfortunately for him, it didn't take more than a few seconds for the kid to catch the cold. And now, the next day, he found himself sick in the nurse's office. But luckily, Kana would be there to take care of him, or at least that's what he thought, since the day before he had lied about why he was in the nurse's office, claiming he had hurt his ankle. And now, for being a lying bear and skipping class, he'll have to receive some TLC in the nurse's office. And since the chance encounters can't stop, now our protagonist will run into Kana in the laundry room on a rainy day. The teacher is all soaked, of course, because of the rain, since she likes to watch the drops, wink wink, and since chance encounters can't stop, now our protagonist would run into Kana in the laundry room on a rainy day. The teacher is all soaked in her blouse, of course because of the rain, since she likes to watch the drops, wink wink. Ichiro suggests that she put her in the dryer, but she doesn't have anything else to wear, so she won't be wearing wigs. But since she can't stay in her wet clothes, the chivalrous student 2009 takes off his shirt to lend it to her, allowing her to dry her blouse without being exposed. The teacher is afraid of thunder, and to make matters worse, the power goes out in the whole neighborhood. Now they have to figure out how to turn the light back on with a switch that's pretty high up. That's how Ichiro suggests lifting her up so she can reach the switch. But when he sees the excess fabric all in one place, he gets distracted, causing a bit of detergent to soak her. And now, it's Kana's turn to carry the protagonist, so she tries to lift him onto her shoulders. But just at that moment, she feels a colossal titan as Armin pressed his head against her machine. That thing is gonna make another big noise. Then a new day would come at home, where one would think there's no way the teacher would show up. But yes, there is a way. It turns out that the teacher is now babysitting the protagonist's little sister because she seems to be friends with the mom, and that's why she's there. And the bad thing about being a babysitter is that she doesn't have an easy time with little kids, since they always cry or complain next to her. This makes her mention that her parents are already waiting for grandchildren, but she feels incapable of handling little kids. But those titans sure know how to drive, huh? I mean, the protagonist asks her if she's looking for a super buff guy and nothing else. To which she replies that she just wants someone young who can take care of others and is good with kids, qualities that Ichiro just happens to have. And since the conversation is getting a bit awkward, 2009 decides to take a shower in a small office. It's just that it's scorching hot both in the anime and in real life. Help! Get me out of Latin America! And so, with that amazing swimsuit the teacher is wearing, our protagonist couldn't help but get a good eyeful, which made him feel a bit uncomfortable, or maybe even like a puppy, but the excitement would be even more intense as her huge plot was on display. In the scare, the woman accidentally bumps the little girl with her hip, sending her flying backward. But before her little head hits the floor, Ichiro and Kana manage to catch her, colliding their lips in the process. Prize. Prize. During the night, we see Ichiro's mom start to tease Kanita as she needs, demands, desires, and longs for some grandkids so much that she's even willing to offer her son as a husband since he is everything she would want in a little man. So after this, the teacher would go visit again, being invited by the mom to hang out in the kids' room so everyone could chat while having a drink. No way! They delivered some mature affection right to your door. In a matter of seconds, Kana was already tipsy because she has low tolerance for beer. Later, the mom pulls out her old photo album, revealing her past and the teacher's as well. And in one picture, she opens up a rather curious photo of the teacher with a little boy. And so we would move on to have a flashback from the past. It turns out that Kana was a very shy girl, unable to have a conversation with other people. Until one day, she saw a boy jumping off a bridge, and wanting to stop him, she ended up falling into the water alongside the little one. That's how she took him home so they could take a bath together. Once there, the girl would ask the kid why he would try to jump off a bridge, to which he would respond that it was a test of courage to mature and become an adult. Kana tells her that those are mom, because maturing is more complex than just jumping off a bridge, admitting that if she were more mature, 2009 would have no problem talking to other people. Once again, the boy, being all wise, would respond that she was already talking to him, and it was thanks to him that the teacher decided to study education, thus changing her personality into that of a mature and strict woman who isn't afraid to face things. So remember, if an older girl wants to be mature, you have to turn her into Kirisan 2024. So, all of this was thanks to the protagonist because he is the boy in the photograph. Kana wondered what that boy is up to now, as she would do anything to show her gratitude. To which the mother points to her son, telling her that he is right in front of her. The teacher breaks down in tears, expressing gratitude to Kiro for his impact on her life. The mother leaves to give them privacy, suggesting they marry and enjoy their time alone. The teacher notices Kiro's magazines and asks about his experience with girls. Ichiro admits he's a virgin. The teacher, emboldened by alcohol, offers to teach him about female affection. Realizing the risk to Kana's career, Kiro offers her water to sober up, but she insists on rum. Just as things heat up, they're interrupted by the sister and mother. That's when the teacher starts getting bolder and tells him that if he wants experience, his teacher will teach him everything about female affection. The protagonist realizes that all of this is due to the alcohol and that this relationship could jeopardize Kana's career, so he offers her some water to sober up. But she will only accept a sip of water if he mixes it with rum, and Kiro agrees. Just when it seems like things are about to heat up, they are interrupted by the little sister and their mother. You had to mess it up, dude! The next day at school, our protagonist would run into the teacher walking down the hallway, and being a nice guy, or rather a total flirt, he greets her, maybe a bit too confidently, because where confidence goes, so does arrogance. This would annoy Kana, and she would scold him harshly for being so familiar with his teacher, scolding him so badly that he ends up on the floor, leaving everyone around shocked. Despite her bratty attitude, the truth is that she scolded him because she feels so embarrassed about what happened, because she remembers everything, every little detail. Then days go by, and now we find ourselves in the classic beach episode. And as usual, Kana would be there because her mom invited her. Speaking of her mom, she would tell the protagonist to get used to the teacher being part of the family because she would become a part of it once they got married. This would throw Ichiro off because there's never been any sign that she feels anything for him, but he knows how these bossy types are. They know way too much about this stuff, and she would respond that she does like him. Once this is said, he would leave with his little sister to give them some time alone. Ichiro and Kana decide to go to a more secluded spot for some comfort so that no one can hear anything. Wink wink, and behind a canyon, he finds a good place. There, the girl would ask him to put sunscreen on her back. The protagonist, surprised by his mother's words, comments without thinking that he wants her attention. The teacher responds, "I need collagen, bro." And they both shyly realize their words. Kana forgets he's applying sunscreen, leaving her back exposed. Embarrassed, she jumps into the ocean, telling him to wait until graduation for maturity. Moments later, Kana feels a sting and notices a warning sign about poisonous animals. Out of embarrassment, she would go swimming in the ocean, but not before telling him that she would wait until graduation, as she wanted him to be more mature, like a fruit. A few moments pass, and Kana feels something sting her, only to realize that this spot is very dangerous, as there's a fallen sign warning about poisonous animals in the area. The teacher panics because she thinks she got stung by something deadly and confesses that she doesn't want to go meet St. Peter, not knowing what it feels like to do the fantastic food tree. In response, the protagonist tells her to stay calm because he's not going to kick the bucket, as he will take care of extracting her poison. "And I'll take care of that too, kiddo." What? That's when the teacher reveals that she was bitten near that area. Which area, my dear? I mean, you know what I mean? Well, the protagonist, being a true gentleman, helps her out. And in the end, nothing else happened other than the fact that the teacher was more than pleased with such a heroic act. Once the issue was resolved, in the afternoon, it was time for a family meal with Ichiro, where his mother would once again start with her ideas about how he should already be dating. During the gathering, the teacher would come across a wedding being celebrated at the venue, which would be witnessed by the protagonist. The protagonist would suggest to Kana that when they finally graduate, they should both return to the island, but as something more serious. The curious thing about all this is that from here on, they both start dating, since this guy fulfilled the dream of many, and everything that has happened so far would be summarized by Kana, who would be telling it to her friend and teacher from the same school. Mayu would feel a bit nostalgic about this anecdote, as she also has feelings for a student, but she hasn't been able to make any progress with him. And now we will change the protagonist and we will be again with Nijiro, who would be telling his friend named Rin what happened with Kana, and in the process he asks him to keep the little secret. Once this is said, the guy has to leave because it's time for lunch with the teacher, leaving the boy alone, who has no one else to eat with due to his very intimidating appearance. So, when the teacher Mayu is left alone, she looks at him and decides to approach him to suggest they have lunch together. Rin asks if she really doesn't feel scared seeing him, but the teacher replies that no teacher should feel that way about any of their students, and she also feels like a very wet river. This is how these sweet words make the boy excited, agreeing to eat together. Here we learn from Rin that Mayu is known as the saintly mother of the students, because unlike Kana, she is a sweetheart who is very kind to everyone. What a blessing! While having lunch, the teacher decides to try feeding the boy by putting food in his mouth, but her gesture is interrupted by her clumsiness as she slips and falls into the fountain behind her. Rin, being the gentleman he is, jumps into the fountain to help her out. But unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for him, he accidentally pulls off the teacher's skirt. And after things got a bit crazy, the boy apologizes for what he did and decides to lend his luck so that Mayu has something dry to wear while she changes. Once in the locker room, Kana would notice that Mayu is carrying Rin's sweater and would ask her if she's in love with him. She denies it, but from her expression, it's clear that she has feelings for him. Then she realizes that when the boy lent her his clothes, he forgot that his Metro card was in there, so she would have to return it to him so he could get home. And so, one thing leads to another, and they both end up traveling on the train during rush hour, getting pretty close together. And since in this anime, things have to get wild, the teacher's blouse got caught in the door and unbuttoned with a sudden movement, leaving Mayu quite exposed. Luckily, Rin was there to give her some unintentional masculine effect and tried to fasten her clothes as best as he could. Yeah, of course. Once outside the train, Rin would apologize for what happened, but the teacher would tell him that it's no problem, or at least that's what she could say, because at that moment, the police arrived to ask if something inappropriate is going on. Since it looks like they tried to leave him with nothing on the train. To avoid any trouble, Mayu would say that Rin is her boyfriend, to which our clueless protagonist would respond that she shouldn't lie about something so serious, considering they are teacher and student. This would hit the teacher hard, as those words could only mean that her crush saw her just as his teacher. Days go by, and now we find ourselves in a McDonald's, where Rin is ordering food, but everyone around him avoids getting close because he looks so intimidating. By coincidence, he would run into his teacher buying something as well, and they would both leave the place together. As they left, they noticed that it would start to rain very soon, and the protagonist's little brothers would arrive to bring him an umbrella so he could return home dry. And since Mayu also lives nearby, Rin would offer to share the umbrella with her. On the way, the teacher feels embarrassed, since walking together with the two children gives the impression that they are a couple with their children. The little sister would throw a small tantrum because she didn't get the toy she wanted from a Happy Meal, but the teacher would give her the toy from her own meal to calm her down. However, she didn't expect that in her excitement, the girl would throw her toy into the air, causing it to land inside the teacher's blouse, creating another pretty awkward situation. So, she decided to head home alone. I really like toys. One night, Mayu would find herself drinking with Kana, and when Kana got really drunk, Ichiro would come to pick her up. This would make Mayu feel quite envious of her friend, as she had someone to take care of her. This is how she would feel really down, starting to dream about something that happened a long time ago. When she was about to go for her interview to become a teacher, everything bad happened that day. She tripped, got overwhelmed, her heel broke, and honestly she thought, I might as well not go. But just when she thought her job interview was lost, Rin would show up with the intention of helping her get there on time. Like a true gentleman, he offered to carry her the whole way while running, managing to get her there even before the scheduled time. And on top of that, he fixed her heel. This is how Mayu fell in love with the boy's kindness. And when she woke up, she would curiously find herself in the arms of her beloved. It turns out that Kichiro, who had been there before, sent a message to his friend to come pick up his teacher. And that's how the story of this pair comes to an end. And now it's time to focus on a new protagonist, as there will soon be a school festival. Rin, Mayu, and the treasurer would talk to one of the organizers named Takashi, whom we will only know as Taka. Alongside him, we will also meet his teacher Hikari, who seems to be his complete opposite. The boy is calm, shy, and small, while the teacher is cheerful, outgoing, and playful. The teacher seems quite heavy-handed with the boy, treating him like he's her little brother, and soon we'll see the reason for this. So, at the end of the day, Taka would go home only to find Hikari snuggled up in his bed, planning to stay there for the night because the heating in her house broke down. This is how she decides to pull the guy towards her on the bed and hug him tightly. But be very careful, because when the hug comes, so does the pregnancy. Here we are in 2024, and now we see that this pair has known each other since they were little, so they are like siblings or childhood friends. Their parents used to leave them alone when they went to work, and Hikari always took care of him, so she would give him a few whacks just like any older sibling would. In the end, Taka doesn't feel comfortable with the relationship they have now, as he feels that his friend sees him as a little boy instead of an adult. This feeling is only reinforced when, after getting out of bed, the woman acts as if nothing happened, despite how close they were to each other. However, when she steps out, the girl realizes that she no longer has a little kid in front of her. Days pass, and Hikari takes Taka shopping for lingerie. The main guy is embarrassed, but the girl tells him it's his chance to show maturity by helping her, despite being judged by the girls in the store. Without thinking, he hands a sheer piece to the clerk, and Hikari, undeterred, tries it on, ending up embarrassed by its revealing nature. Before she could remove it, Taka pulls her out, unable to handle the embarrassment. They run through the store, unaware his teacher is behind them, almost as God made her. Fortunately, it was a misunderstanding, as the girl knew it wasn't done with bad intentions. Before she could remove it, Taka pulls her away. He runs through the store, unaware his teacher follows. The girl knew it was a misunderstanding. Taka avoids his teacher. Hikari jokes, they fall into a river, trapped in a cave by rain. Fortunately, it all ended up being a misunderstanding because the girl knew that what happened wasn't done with bad intentions. A few days later, the students were on a field trip in the countryside. But because of what happened, Taka had trouble looking his teacher in the face. So, after a little joke from Hikari, they both end up falling into a river, and to make matters worse, they get stuck in a cave because of the rain. There, our main guy would start to feel faint because he would begin to hallucinate and feel really bad. The teacher uses a survival method to combat heat, hugging her student. He remembers Hikari cared for him and confesses his feelings. This shocks the teacher, but they can't discuss it due to his health. As he finally regains some sense, he remembers that Hikari always took care of him when he was little, and that's when he realizes he has feelings for her, confessing it right then and there. This would leave the teacher shocked, but they couldn't talk about it at that moment due to our main guy's health condition. As the days go by, we finally see the start of the school festival, where Mayu will be dressed as a student accompanying Rin. There, Hikari would see the pair looking quite lovey-dovey, and knowing that her friend likes the guy, she would lock them both in a room under the pretense of it being an escape event where two people are handcuffed together, and to get out, they have to find the key. Rin now knows that Mayu has feelings for him because he heard what Hikari said, but he decides to play deaf while he looks for the keys to the handcuffs. Here, a lot of juicy stuff would happen, but once this is resolved, the guy would apologize for always causing problems. But his teacher would respond that nothing he does causes any issues, and on the contrary, she likes him. In light of this, the guy doesn't know if it would be okay to have a relationship with the teacher, but seeing the relationships of the other main characters with the rest of the teachers, he thinks, if they can do it, why can't I? One of the most famous activities during the festival is visiting the old school building, which is already quite destroyed by the passage of time, and someone will have to keep an eye on it to make sure the students don't do anything silly. However, the one who would do something silly would be Hikari, who would sneak into the building intending to hide and scare Taka. But her plan goes wrong because the floor beneath her breaks, leaving her trapped. When Taki and a classmate enter, they find the teacher and decide to help her. While the girl goes to get help, the main guy also falls through the floor, ending up at the bottom. At least there, he has the option to help Hikari by pushing her up. However, this action makes the teacher feel the urge to go to the bathroom, a feeling she won't be able to resist for much longer. With no other option, Taka takes everything off and hands her a bucket so she can relieve herself. After this, he would go to the rest of the students to get them out of there. Once outside, Hikari would notice how the guy preferred to leave with the other students without waiting for her, thinking that maybe seeing her was the last straw, and that he now has a certain view of her. In reality though, the guy was too embarrassed to look her in the face. The next day, a student would comment about someone dressed as a silly bear who goes around separating the couples at school. But this isn't as bad as it sounds, as it's rumored that if this bear separates you from your partner, you'll actually have good luck in love and even with your confession. So, Mayu sets out to find the bear so she can have good luck in her relationship with Rin. However, when she thinks she finds it, she asks the bear to help her with her confession out loud, not realizing that she was actually asking her crush, whom she mistook for the bear because he was so tall. The guy, all embarrassed, would tell her that he's just a student who doesn't even know what he'll be in the future. But if he's what she wants, he'd gladly marry her when he finishes school. This makes the teacher faint from excitement because her dream has finally come true. Now the bear was actually Hikari, and she was hiding because everyone wanted her for good luck. But she didn't count on Ketaka, who knew exactly where she was hiding since he suspected she was the bear. So, after a little free craving, they would both confess that they were in love with each other. And now that everything is resolved, we'll get to know the last main character of this story, named Tanaka, who works as a waiter at a restaurant. The rest of the main characters would tell him that they've all paired up and now everyone has a partner for their paychecks, which makes the guy feel really jealous and he decides he needs to get a girlfriend before graduation. Just as he's thinking about that, he accidentally bumps into the school nurse named Chizuru, and by another mistake, he ends up splashing her with oil. Mistakes make you stronger. Apparently, this really does justice to what they say about her, as she has a reputation for being quite cold with the students. After offering her a change of clothes in the locker room, things would get pretty interesting. Although maybe in a somewhat peculiar way, since Tanaka would fall on top of the teacher due to an ankle injury, but she reacts less than a rock. After this, Chizuru would wonder how she can have a better relationship with the students because she's definitely colder than your ex's lies. And she would share this concern with Hikari, looking for advice. The teacher would respond that he just needs to smile more and be kinder, although she would also ask if this is because of someone specific. While the woman wouldn't answer, she would be thinking about Tanaka Akanejo, as it seems these teachers like younger guys. Days go by, and now he would be celebrating Christmas, and Tanaka would have to spend Christmas alone because his family isn't home. But he would be surprised to find Chizuru dressed as Santa there to get to know him a little better and keep him from spending the holidays alone. The guy would say that he would also like to get to know her a bit more, and the woman came prepared with some videos from her childhood, although getting to know her meant something a bit more current. To this, she would just say that she feels happy to spend Christmas with someone, since ever since she left her parents' house, she feels a bit lonely. And so, they would do a little gift exchange to wrap up the night, and then the drawer that won't close made a sound, signaling the end. Nah, just kidding. As a result of Christmas, they both start to become much closer, to the point that when they run into each other on the street, they can have a normal conversation. Tanaka would offer to help her with a few things, and as a thank you, Chizuru decides to try her luck in the lottery. If she wins, she would share the prize with him, and by the magic of the script, she actually ends up winning something, which would be an all-expenses-paid trip to a nearby island in Japan. And so, they would go to that island to have a good time, but they didn't realize it wouldn't be the right season at all, which would make the albino girl sad because she had come prepared for it. After a high tide, the Ricardos would start again with a waterfall. Chizuru came prepared for the trip with fun activity ideas, and the main guy would discover this too. Seeing the effort the albino girl was putting into it, he couldn't help but start feeling some butterflies for her. And so, they would start spending their days on the island, doing all kinds of activities and growing closer and closer. One night, Chizuru would take him to see the stars at a spot where they could be seen really well, but their plans would be interrupted by a sudden rain that forced them to hide inside a cave. The situation makes the girl a bit sad, but there's no reason to get discouraged when the moment is still to come. Inside the cave, once this was over, the cave was illuminated by the moon, allowing them to see a series of stalactites above them that sparkled like stars right overhead. Tanaka would take the moment to tell her how he feels about her, which would embarrass Chizuru a lot, making her come closer to cover his eyes with her hands so he wouldn't see her blushing. And so the months would pass, and we would find ourselves on February 14th, where Tanaka hoped to be lucky enough to receive some chocolate, but he wouldn't get anything. His longing for female affection was so strong that he would stay at school until nightfall. A snowstorm trapped him at school overnight with Chizuru. They warmed up in the nurse's office, sharing a romantic moment. Chizuru offered chocolate, which melted on his lap. The nurse, unafraid, had removed her clothes. He confessed his desire to date Chizuru, but she rejected him. They would both go to the nurse's office to warm up by a heater because the power went out. And there, they would share a perfect moment, something romantic. Just then, Chizuru would offer him a chocolate, but since it was a bit melted, it would fall on his lap. I didn't mention this before, but since the nurse isn't afraid of anything, she had taken off everything she was wearing. And after the chocolate fell on the albino girl and he took it off her lap, our main guy would gather the courage to tell her that he wants to start dating her, but she would reject him right away. Wait, what the heck was that? Follow the script. Graduation day came, Tanaka went to his room. Chizuru congratulated him, confessed her feelings, and now they could start dating. The anime ends with the guys showing off their teachers. Our protagonist would go up to his room to have a moment alone, but the teachers would also be in the house preparing something for their students and future husbands, of course, since it's the end of the school year. Chizuru would take the opportunity to congratulate her former student on his graduation, and after a bit of the typical accidental cuteness, the nurse would end up confessing her feelings. The reason she hadn't accepted to go out with him before was that he was a student at the school where she works, but now that he's not, they can start dating. This is how Tanaka would also get his older wife in the end, and the anime ends with all the lucky pipes showing off to their teachers. But how envious. If you like this video, comment the teachers on God, and don't forget to join the brand new Watts broadcast channel and also be part of the Akieri Bros as we're growing more and more. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, give it a like and share it with all your friends. If you'd like to see any of my upcoming videos, don't forget to subscribe. I suggest you follow me on my social media so you can stay updated on my next videos. I'll leave the link in the description. With nothing more to say, I'll see you next time. Bye.